Hello, this is Don Lipari, Head of Private Equity at RSM. Welcome to another segment of Powerhouses in Private Equity. Today I have the pleasure of speaking with Marc Leder, co-CEO and co-founder of Sun Capital Partners. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you, Don. Good to see you.
You joined Lehman in '87.
Yeah, January of '87.
Talk about the Lehman experience.
Love working there. Really smart, driven people, interesting work, great clients. That's where Roger and I became good friends. We started out together as part of a class, and we all kind of moved up together. While Roger and I were working our way up at Lehman, private equity emerged as an industry.
Yeah.
And as much as we love working with clients and advising clients, we thought it'd be really interesting to see what happens after closing, after the acquisition closes. And we both had an entrepreneurial spirit, and that's why we decided to start Sun Capital in 1995.
Let's talk about that launch, because it's a little scary, right? The two of you coming out of Lehman. Talk about the strategy when you built the concept of Sun. Talk about the culture you were looking to create, and talk about raising that first fund as two professionals out of Lehman who didn't have a fund at the time.
Sure. So our so-called fund number one was 12 investments. They were all individually financed. So we did not raise a fund.
Fundless sponsor.
Exactly, because we had no track record. We were two investment bankers who had a dream of getting to private equity. Well, the irony is we had great friends from Bain Capital or Apollo and other firms, and they all told us, you guys are great bankers, terrific people, but private equity is a very different business. Stick with investment banking. And now many of them are investors with us and have made a lot of money investing with us. And the reason we're in Boca, and the reason we're called Sun Capital, is to focus on the southeastern United States. Plain vanilla traditional buyouts in Florida and the southeast.
Industry agnostic at that in those early days?
Yes, and the strategy failed miserably. It took us 1 year to realize it was not going to work. We would meet with business.
Failed in what way? It wasn't failed investments. It was you couldn't close deals.
Couldn't get a deal done.
Oh.
It took us 20 months to close the first deal.
Talk about those 20 months. Were you guys questioning your decisions? Was there a lot of tension in the air?
There wasn't tension, but what happened is 1995, we moved down. We met with all the deal attorneys, accountants, business brokers, regional investment bankers, told them who we were, our Lehman background, our Wharton background, our network of friends who would fund our deals. And we would see a lot of deals, but every time we would get close, a seller would say, you guys seem like really good people, but I've got two bids from firms that have got a track record and a fund. Why would I give you a chance when we've got two better buyers? And there wasn't a good answer for that. They said, if you're willing to pay a lot more, then we could talk, but we weren't going to overpay, and we weren't going to bait and switch or promise something that we couldn't deliver.
Right.
So we went all of 1995 without a single deal closing. When we start 1996, we felt we needed a different strategy. As Einstein said, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. So we decided to try something different, and we contacted the business brokers and lawyers, accountants, and investment bankers who showed us deals in '95 that we passed on because we thought the management team was weak or the company wasn't performing. And finally, December 30th of '96, we closed our first deal, which was a company that was in specialty paper, weak team, kind of stuck in the mud. The original company was called Fry Copy Systems. And then we did two more deals in '97, also both kind of scratch and dent. And back in '96, '97, no one else had thought of or was buying operationally challenged, poorly managed businesses. The whole private equity industry was developing as great company, great team, pristine track record. So here we were, fundless sponsors buying the deals that no one else wanted. And we were like the proverbial dog chasing the bus. We caught the bus with these first three deals. We looked at each other and we said, now what do we do?
That was by necessity that you had to look at underperforming companies.
That's exactly right, because we couldn't compete without a fund or a track record, and we're also deep value buyers, so that wasn't going to work. So we had to find the companies that no one else wanted to buy.
You had to shapeshift on the fly, essentially.
Roger and I, it was just the two of us. We were in one of these shared office companies like WeWork,
Yeah.
but they weren't so sexy back then.
Right.
We would joke that he would make the copies and I would make the coffee because he didn't drink coffee. But that's really true. And we rolled up our sleeves. We got very deeply involved with these 3 businesses. We rebuilt the management teams, developed new strategic plans, and just intensely and with a lot of hard work, some beginner's luck, intensity, stabilized and turned these businesses around. And by 1999, we realized we'd found, accidentally, a great niche within private equity.
And how many deals do you have now done before you launch Fund 1?
We'd completed 11 of the 12. The 12th closed in February of 2001, which was after we launched what we call Fund 2, but before we closed on it.
I see.
So after Thanksgiving, we sent out our PPM, and we started calling people. We had a track record, but we had no exits. And I remember we would call the investors, and we said, "Hi, I'm Marc Leder. I just sent you a PPM for our fund. What do you think?" And I think they've got a standard line. They all said the same thing. "I think it's on a pile on my desk with 50 others. I'll call you if I'm interested."
This wasn't easy for you guys.
It was not easy. So one of our first meetings was Goldman Sachs, which had a big fund-to-funds business, a VP there named Charles Bailey. And we come to their offices, and there's 6 of them in a conference room, and Roger and I walk in, and we see the snow outside, and we were thinking to ourselves, it's about 80 degrees and sunny in Miami. And I started the meeting with some niceties, thanking them for the time, telling them how much we appreciate them having interest in potentially in Sun Capital. And Charles says, "Hold on, we don't really have interest. We're a fund of funds. We see everyone."
Oh, God.
But he ultimately liked what he heard, and within weeks told us he was interested in investing.
No kidding.
After the first great 3 funds, we thought we could fix anything, and we started investing in some industries were not that healthy, not that strong, maybe declining. And you can take a broken company in a bad industry and fix it, and you can't keep the performance going. Ultimately, it's a step forward and then 2 steps backwards. We made good money for our investors, but compared to what we had achieved previously, humiliating, embarrassing, frustrating. So when we raised Fund 6 in 2012 and 13, we looked at what was an 18-year history, what worked, what didn't, what could we do better. Really changed 3 things to get back on track after Funds 4 and 5. 1, we're buying healthier businesses. We used to think paying 5 times for a business was a bargain. If it's in a crappy industry, it's no bargain. But a company that's struggling, where you pay 7, 8 times because the company is struggling or the team is not complete, but the industry typically trades for 10 times EBITDA, it's a better deal and it's a better value. The second thing, we dramatically enhanced and improved our toolkit. We have what's called the Sun Transformation System, which is a fancy branding opportunity for our toolkit, but we have a very extensive toolkit we've built up over 24 years, tools to drive revenue growth, reduce costs. Finally, we have the bandwidth to implement the right tools from our toolkit. When we were managing Funds 4 and 5, we got to over 90 portfolio companies. We're down to 38 companies as of now, and people say to us, "How can you manage 38? And we say, well, after managing over 90, 38 is pretty easy.
It's a walk in the park,
It's a walk in the park.
comparatively. Talk a little bit about the culture. So now you're in business. What culture did you and Roger set out to instill at Sun?
Believe it or not, we didn't set out to instill a culture. In fact, when I was 18, 19, sophomore or junior at Wharton, and taking courses on management and leadership, and they talked about culture, I literally rolled my eyes. To me, it was all about the numbers and manufacturing and operations and execution. What's this culture crap? And Roger and I did not set out to create a culture. We set out to get our first deal done, raise the money for it, parlay that to get our second deal done, raise our first fund, as we just discussed. And the culture just evolved as a reflection of who he and I were. Roger and I both have some very similar values.
Right.
Incredibly hardworking, very direct, very open, very transparent.
High integrity,
High
because you talked about
integrity.
never retrading.
We always say what we mean. We always do what we say. and we attracted people that were the same. So the culture just evolved by itself. And that's what typically happens when you've got 2 people and you grow to 3, and then we grew to 11 and then to 17. But then at some point, when you grow to 50, 60 people, when you open other offices, which started with New York,
right,
then LA, then London, then Shenzhen, then you got to memorialize your culture. You got to communicate it regularly, because the more people and the broader you are geographically, the higher the probability is that you lose your culture.
Okay, your Hall of Fame induction. Give me your abridged comments.
Well, I guess I thank Roger for being an incredible partner for going on 25 years. One CEO, after meeting me, said, I've heard about you and Roger, having met you, I now totally get it. He's the brake pedal and you're the gas. And then just a great team effort here at Sun Capital. We have really amazing people. I just have a blast every day, so there's nothing better than loving what you do every day when you do it.